Hi everyone, and welcome back to another one of our good old Bundesliga and A League match week reviews. We're going to do it a little different this week as we're starting to head in towards the good old business end of the season, you could call it. Normally we'd obviously start with the Friday Bundesliga game and kind of work our way methodically through the week up until the Sunday games. Going to flip the script a bit this time, people, if that's okay with all of you lovely fans of ours. Because of the fact that we've had some massive results this week in the Bundesliga that have started to make it really take shape, and I mean take shape. I mean, look, first up, maybe, West Brom lost to Oxford, not great. We'll get on to Melbourne City's result later, but a great week for your Bundesliga team, wasn't it, Ben, before we touch on it a bit?
It was fantastic. I'd go as far to say it was the upset of the round. We did have some great games. I mean, one of them that another one we'll certainly go into more depth on as we go along. But I think it certainly, some of the bits of games that I saw. I mean, one of those relegation threatened teams had a win that's going to really give them a boost against a rival that's probably sort of stuck in quicksand a bit now, and some other exactly. But and one of the other sides that's been in really good form of recent weeks, they sort of kept on keeping on, had a really big win. So why not get stuck into all the action?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the perfect place to start is first of all mention we obviously began this review, on this similar week back earlier in the season, the Der Klassiker week. So we are officially full circle in a sense, maybe not full circle, but we have reached that point of which we started now. So on and on from here, I guess. Of course, it's been a great couple of months already. So it's cool that we've made it to this part. But without rambling too much, we'll start exactly where we started that first review of ours, of course, and that is with the Der Klassiker. Because, well, firstly, obviously, obviously in the lead up to this, I said, if you can watch this full game, because it was a phenomenal game of football, and I stand by that.
And I did, yeah, it was superb.
Yeah, it was a superb game of football. Of course, the subplot of it all was like with us, heading into the game. Of course, the gap between Dortmund and us was 8 points. Meaning, had we won, which we did, which we'll get onto, it would jump to 11 points, and the manner of that win and the fact that we won, I think it's fair to say now as we head into March, Bayern do effectively have one strong hand on that Bundesliga trophy, and I think you'd be a fool to not think otherwise. You could even make the point now with an 11-point gap with only a handful of games left to go. I mean, how many games left to go actually? I'm going to double check this one.
I think it's about 10
games left to play. So, I mean, look, you could even make the point with 11-point gap, it's Bayern, 10 games left to play. Have we practically got 2 hands and 4 fingers, like 2 hands, 3 fingers and 1 thumb, 2 hands, 3 fingers and 1 thumb on the trophy now? Is that a fair assumption?
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. But look, on the game itself, we won it 3-2. But look, fair credit to Dortmund, because I thought they were absolutely brilliant in this game. This is one of the best performances I've seen against us so far this season. I'm not counting that. Arsenal fans, if you're watching, I'm not counting your win against us in the Champions League, because everyone knows how you play against big sides this season. It wasn't good. No, but Dortmund, fair credit, a phenomenal performance from them. And you could say unlucky, but it showed me when it's really put to us, we can seriously step up, and that's what we did to have to win this game. And also, Arsenal fans, if you're listening and watching, when you got to put statements out if you're going to win a league properly, you go and beat your title rivals. You don't play for a draw if you're in front of them in the table. And that's what we did. There was you watched it, there was no point in that game where it looked at all like we were just going to sit back and accept it 2-2. When they equalised you just sensed that we were going to go and try and win it, and that's what we did. I mean, look, fair credit. Look, the big talking point of it was, and honestly, you agree, even though we won, it's great. The refereeing is a bit I don't know how Schlotterbeck has not been sent off for that challenge on Stanisic. It's just as simple as that, in my opinion. I don't know what your thoughts on that were. I mean, then it had to be him to then go and score to put them in front, obviously, is how this stuff works in football. And then he had a bit to, and then him and Stanisic were involved in another turning point in the game briefly as well. But on that, he should have been sent off, let's be real. That's just ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, that's my opinion on it. I don't know what your take on was take of that was on that.
I'd agree. Yeah, it's definitely worthy of a read. Yeah, for sure. But I mean, what I took out of it was, first of all, the atmosphere. Just, I mean, regardless of where it's played, this game's always, going to pack the place out, and just that's what you want from these games is atmosphere. But also, I guess it shows from a Bayern point of view. And let's face it, Dortmund have been terrific this year, and they've put away the sides that they.
Remember, I was saying confidently, cockily/confidently heading into this. Oh, Dortmund haven't lost at home, but we'll do it. We did. We have handed them their first home defeat this season, so.
Yeah, but I think from a Bayern point of view, from my side, it shows that. I mean, you guys have been challenged in different games this year, but you've always found a way through. To sort of, you not want to, as you said, you don't want to settle for that draw. You want to go through and get all 3 points. And I think against, well, that's right. That's a statement. Yeah,
clear. We could have still settled for a draw and stayed 8 points clear. It's not like we were neck and neck on points. The fact that we still went for the win to open up an 11-point gap shows me that we want to win this league as soon as possible, so we can then focus on the Champions League. Because if we can win it, if we can keep ourselves ticking over and get through to the semi-finals of the Champions League and win the league by the time we're in our semi-finals, then we've won the league. We don't have to stress so much about our Bundesliga form. We can then go fully and focus on the Champions League. We've got the Pokal as well. We're the semi-finals of that. And then, we could be looking at a treble potentially. Let's definitely not rule it out. But look, just one more on this game before we move on, because obviously, like always, we've got a lot of football to cover on these reviews. As I said, the performance in Dortmund was fantastic, and it's a performance from their point of view, which kind of shows why they're probably going to comfortably finish second as well. I can't see any other team really catching them at this point, because outside of the games against us this season, they've been near perfect. It was a far better performance, far better Der Klassiker than the one earlier this season. That kind of felt like a bit of a turgid affair, where Dortmund had a decent first half in that, but they were terrible in the second half. This time they kept their level up the whole way through. Daniel Svensson, excellent performance. He was actually giving us some serious problems on that right-hand side for most of the game. Schlotterbeck, even though he should have been sent off, another good performance from him again as well. Again, even though he gave away the penalty as well, there was something about him in Stanisic all game. And look, one more thing before we move on. Let's just talk about, great volley as well from Kimmich. Come for the Bayern captain, right? How many times have we said that over the years in big, important games? But look, there's one man we're going to talk about, and it's all being circulated. Is Harry Kane going to break Lewandowski's Bundesliga record now? 12 goals breaks the record from here. That's the thing. Can he score 12 goals in our last 10 games? That's the thing. He's drawn level, of course, with Paul Breitner's 10 penalties in one Bundesliga season record as well. And he's got 10 more games to get one more penalty to break that record as well. Is Harry Kane on for a Bundesliga record-breaking season in goals and penalties? That's a big question I want to ask you before we move on.
I don't think you could put it past him. He's a sensational player, and I guess the last thing I'll probably mention on this game was, from a Dortmund point of view, I guess we're going to talk about some other results, but that maybe possibly opens up the door a little bit for the sides in third and fourth to maybe stake their claim.
On that. I don't think so. I think because outside of the 2 defeats against us this season and the 2 draws against you, funnily enough, Dortmund have almost been near perfect against every other side so far in this season, and I just don't think it's going to be the case that they're going to slip that far. They're a very well organised coach team. Niko Kovac struggled with us when he was our manager, but he's doing an excellent job at Dortmund, and I don't think any other team's going to get into second ahead of them, because I think genuinely from here on out they're barely going to drop points for the remainder of this season. Maybe a couple of draws in there, maybe one defeat, but aside from that, I find it this Dortmund team look too good themselves to drop that many points. That the teams beneath them are going to be able to be consistent enough themselves to overtake them. So I think this game is basically has decided who's finishing first, who's finishing second this season. And we're at the beginning of March, but it happens like this in the Bundesliga sometimes. From the top end of the table, we'll jump all the way down to the very bottom end of the table, where sadly I think one team have waved goodbye to their Bundesliga stay, which is a shame because they're a nice small club and we've spoken about how cool their ground looks and how fun it would be to go watch a game there. But look, it's been 3 seasons of football for Hoffenheim. They got into Europe, but I think, look, even though it's not anywhere near from being mathematical yet, the way they're playing, the lack of confidence they're showing, I mean, this was a bad defeat from them. They did not play well. The goals have started to dry up as well. And then you got the manager as well that you told me coming out in press conferences saying they've already been relegated. It's never
pretty much, yeah. And that was
I don't chime with that. That's pretty poor from their manager when they've still
when they've still got plenty to fight for. Yeah,
to just come out and be like, oh, we're down. Like,
well, basically, from my understanding, and look, it was in German, but they do have translations on the highlight show, which is good. It sort of sounded to me like you were saying, if things sort of stay the way they are, we're relegated. And I hate to say, but I know you agree with me. It pretty much says that's all you need to hear, really.
From a player's perspective, if you were a player for Hoffenheim and you heard your manager say that, it wouldn't fill you with much confidence, would it?
Not at all. And we saw that little shooty hit that they had pre-winter break and how good they were and how much fight they had in the squad and what they were able to do in those few sort of games where they were getting results. But it's night and day compared to now. Like you said, they just don't look like they've got any confidence home or away. And a case in point for me watching the end of this game on Saturday night was the second Bremen goal, which basically was a crossing and it came off a Hoffenheim player and straight into the back of the net.
Yeah.
That's basically like as comical as you'll get, as low confidence from a defence as you'll get. Really. So, but from a Bremen point of view, look, they deserve this. The scenes afterwards were fantastic.
It was a huge win for them.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. This win. They've been waiting for this, and they needed it because they are in. I mean, they're still not out of danger, but they desperately needed that win to give themselves some confidence. But yeah, for Heidenheim's sake, I think it's 4 defeats in their last 5. I mean, it's been a long time. I don't think they've won since they returned from the winter break. In fact, the goals have now started to dry up as well, even though they did 3 past Stuttgart last weekend. Aside from that game, it feels in recent times they've just really struggled to score like they were a little more frequently earlier this season. This was a 2-2 when they played each other in the reverse fixture when we started this review, of course, and Heidenheim were very competitive in that, and this game was just complete night and day. Bremen were dominant from start to finish. A very poor performance from Heidenheim, and I think, sadly for their sake, I think it's all she wrote in the Bundesliga for them.
It's looking like that.
I'd like the team. It would be great to see them just come back up at the first time of asking, of course, but for this particular season, I don't see them staying up anymore.
No, it does. What it does though, and I think you're right in that they are the sort of side that can come back on the first attempt. But we have to remember that they almost didn't make it last season in that playoff. They won right at the death, and credit to them. But that was probably a bit of a warning sign, and we sort of thought maybe, they might do enough to sort of be in that conversation of survival.
I just think that you look at that team, and whilst they've had some good results this season, it's not a Bundesliga team at the core.
No.
There's not enough in that team to really, they haven't. I mean, look, they're a small club. Financially, they're always going to struggle, and they've had 3 consecutive seasons in the Bundesliga, and they made it to Europe in the first one, of course. Let's not forget, which was a fantastic achievement for them to finish as high as 8th. But last season, this season is just, just gone terribly for them.
Definitely. The last thing I'll just mention on this game before we move on is from Bremen. I think with the table as it is now, we've still got a few games where we've got sort of similar sides around them to talk about. I think that really gives them a bit of a boost now to sort of say, hey, what can we do from here? We've seen it with Mainz and Gladbach and other sides. Where one win and some positive results has given them some really good form to continue on from. Can Bremen do that now? That's the big question, and it drags Wolfsburg into that relegation conversation. Looking at the table now,
mentioned that. I think we'll get onto their game perfectly with that one. They are a team who are in 3 3-4 once again. They were in 3-4 before they sacked Simonis, had a little bit of a bounce back, and now they're in 3-4 once again. And funny thing, I think Stuttgart beat them 4-0 in the reverse fixture as well, if I remember correctly. So they've done them 4-0 twice this season. For Stuttgart's point of view, that was a win they needed because they hadn't been in the most consistent form of late. A pretty poor performance for them at Heidenheim last week, but yeah, a massive booster for them with the fact that Hoffenheim is starting to slip a bit as well, so give them a chance of sneaking into third place potentially.
Yeah, possibly.
But I mean, look, we'll talk about Stuttgart many other times. Really, of course, this is more about Wolfsburg and how they are starting to they're back in 3-4. They're second bottom now. There's a bit of a gap now between them and you guys, of course. And, you know, they were in 3-4 earlier this season and they looked in poor form. They've lost 4 of their last 5 and it's only a draw in between. So it's a record that's matching Heidenheim across the last 5 games. I'm not going to call time on Wolfsburg stay in the Bundesliga, in the Bundesliga yet. No. But the way it's currently going, they are in serious trouble and they need to find wins somewhere or find at least ways to just improve that defence, which is just looking way too easy to get at on way too many occasions. Yeah. It's just going to be a right old battle between them and Bremen in particular till the end of the season. We'll bring in the other team into it now, and that's you guys who've had another massive win. I don't know where this has come from. You've won 3 of your last 5 games, or 3 of your last 4, you could technically say. Yeah. I mean, look, you're not clear of it yet, but you're now 15th. Yeah. You know, you're looking a little more confident about it. You know, suddenly that Frankfurt game next week, maybe you're looking at it going like, could we get something, maybe even a point up out of this, potentially another win?
Well, I did say that in this review last week against coming into that Hoffenheim game, thinking if we can maybe get a draw, you know, that's a possibility. But there's a couple of things I really took out of this game, and one of those is the return of Jackson Irvine, the El Capitan. Yeah. And I shared something with you that the Soccer Rouge social media team posted in terms of games with him versus games without him, and the difference is night and day. Yeah. We've barely lost with him in the side, and we've lost plenty of games with him out of the side. It just proves that he hasn't scored a goal in the Bundesliga yet, but he's not there to do that. Yeah. He's there to support and provide, and be a general on field, and that's exactly what he's done. The 2 other things, one was the liner. We had, I think Ando was out and a couple of other guys that were out. Cars didn't come on till very, very late on. Pereira Lage was the starting striker, and he ended up scoring a brilliant header on the stroke of injury. One of the best goals I think I've seen him score all season.
His first Bundesliga goal was a great cross from Saliakas as well. I will question the defending from Hoffenheim.
To give that ball away,
not to give the
shocking.
Ball away. I'm more about not like it was almost like they didn't realise a player like Pereira Lage was behind them.
They come in,
They kind of just left the ball, and then Pereira. I mean, a fantastic cross from Saliakas, as I said. Yeah. A great little header just to steal in at the back post there from Pereira, which I believe I heard the commentator say his first Bundesliga goal. It was,
it was, and he's just come back from injury not long ago. The good news is, because I do follow the club on social media, Hotonji's actually back on the training ground, just doing some light stuff, so hopefully it means he'll be back, you know, in the next fortnight, hopefully, even if it's off the bench. Connor Metcalf actually came on in this one late on, you know, towards the second half, and that's good for him. I completely forgot he was actually, I thought he might have still been injured, but it just goes to show we've made a few tweaks in the lineup. Yeah. We didn't have our best side out there, but we can still defensively play like that. But the guy I'm going to give props to, and I think I posted on one of his Instagram posts, he was the general. It's Nikola Vasil. This bloke has been maligned during the year. We've talked about him in different ways, in different results, especially during that was it the 10-game losing streak.
Yeah,
and the fact that he just had no confidence. He played out of his skin and into a second skin in this game. One from Aslani late and another one late on, throwing himself at the ball. He got kneed in the head by I think it was Kramaric in the first half, and he was down for about 5 minutes. The commentators thought he might come off and Vol might come on. They talked about Vol being the hero in that Pakal game where he led St Pauli to the next round, but This was a warrior, and he didn't just show it by getting up and continuing. He won that game for them. I was sort of wondering when. It was a bit like that Stuttgart game where they eventually scored at the end, but wondering, when are Hoffenheim going to score? We've played really well defensively, but eventually we concede. And thankfully that just didn't come. But I think it goes, from a Hoffenheim point of view, they would have been really disappointed. They had some chances, and yes, Vasil made a couple of stunning saves, but I think Kramaric and Lempele came on late, but they really probably didn't do enough to create any real chances. And that's credit to the defence who were actually on and switched on and from minute one. And what it does now, and we've talked about some of those other sides that are around them, Mainz and Gladbach and Köln, we wouldn't have been talking about them being on level or similar points with Pauli 4 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. I was going to
pre or post winter break, but now they are, and that just goes to
level on points with Mainz now. You're only 1 point behind Köln, 2 behind Gladbach, only 3 behind Hamburg as well.
Hamburg,
We will touch on shortly. I just want to point out quickly before we do move on to the next game. Hoffenheim in probably their worst run of form since we began this podcast. I was looking at the fixtures. They need to kind of get themselves back into more consistent form if they're going to keep that Champions League bid strong. They do have Heidenheim away next week, which of course should be a huge chance for them to win again, to win that comfortably and try and get themselves back on track. But yeah, not been a great couple of weeks for Hoffenheim in terms of their form. If I just look here, I mean, lost against you, drew the week before, won, then lost, then won. So 2 wins, 2 defeats, and a draw in their last 5. Certainly not the same amount of form they've had for the majority of this run of the podcast. But yeah, look, great performance from you guys to beat another team in and around the Champions League battle as well, like Stuttgart, of course, a couple of weeks back. So I mean, look, great signs potentially for you. You just got to keep it up and keep picking up points and try and get yourselves clear of relegation before the end of the last few weeks of the season. You want to be gone by that. You want to be out of it by then and not have to worry about that, of course. But yeah, moving on, we'll go to the Friday.
And as I mentioned to you over the weekend when we caught up, we play you guys in I think a month's time, maybe not even that. And every game I reckon before that is a chance to get points, whatever that might look like. So it's going to be a massive month coming up for us before we face off against you guys.
Exactly, we'll go to the Friday night game now, and Augsburg are an incredible run of form. They've lifted themselves up to 9th in the table now as well, mind you, which is just remarkable, considering where they were when Sandro Wagner got sacked before. And that they've beat Köln, and Köln are starting to slip towards that relegation zone. For a team that we've been saying, they should be comfortable and should stay clear of the relegation zone for most of our podcast, maybe we start going back on those words a bit now, because they haven't looked great recently. It's four without a win, 3 defeats in that 4 as well. Augsburg, incredible, 4 wins in 5. They're up to 9th, of course. They've basically pulled themselves completely out of any sort of relegation danger now at this point, I'd say, and are looking upwards towards European football now that they're only 3 points off Frankfurt in 7th. So it's remarkable how tight the league has been this season, isn't it?
I think, as we said, I think Augsburg, they've been up and down form-wise in recent weeks, but I think against a side that they're fighting against in terms of position on the table, I mean, that takes them to, 8 points, 7 points clear of Köln now. So it's a game they really had to win, and we've talked about them being beaten pretty solidly. 6-0 by Leipzig not that long ago?
Well, a while ago now, a couple of months.
A little while ago, but certainly, it sort of maintains their spot in the top half of the table. They're a game and, negative goal difference just clear of winning on, but...
As I said, they're 3 points off Frankfurt, who are 7th. Out of nowhere, they've gone from being in a relegation battle to being in a European hunt. Essentially, it's an incredible turnaround that they've had under new management. But for Köln's sake, I mean, look, maybe we should go back on our words about them being safe from relegation this season, because they don't look it right now. They're not playing well, they're not in good form, and all of a sudden they're only 2 points above that playoff spot. So it's remarkable how tight the league has been around the whole of the middle table. I mean, basically anywhere but the top six this season in terms of what even in the top, even third to sixth has actually been relatively tight. But like basically from 7th to 17th has just been so tight this season. It just a couple of bad results from one team pulls them back into the relegation zone. A couple of good results from one team pulls them into a potential European chase, right? So it's crazy, really, isn't it? Like if you think about it. Speaking, I will say of one of those teams who's still, potentially looking nervously over their shoulders at that relegation zone, Hamburg. They, of course, took the lead against Leipzig, but ended up losing after that turnaround. It's like, what a finish from Romulo to level. Like, the little back heel just
Yeah. I mean, he had a penalty saved at the end as well. Before Fernandez got to the right spot. But yeah, that back heel from Romulo was very, very cheeky to say the least. And that's just class. That's the mark of a guy who knows exactly what he's doing.
And obviously,
in that situation.
Your choice for young player of the season, Yan Diomande, once again coming up with a big goal for his side.
Yeah, definitely.
Keeps Leipzig well in that kind of top 4 hunt, of course. For Hamburg, as I said, look, they're still 4 points clear of Bremen at the moment, but look, every now and then, there's results that suggest that they're looking nervously over. I mean, that being said, I am looking at the form guide now. That is their first defeat in their last 4 games, so it's not terrible for Hamburg. But, excuse me. But, look, they took the lead and, maybe you should expect Leipzig to come back and to win that game in the end, and had it not been for Hoyer Fernandez, it could have been worse. There's still stuff for them to cling on to there, I think, this season. Look, Fabio Vieira has been excellent for them this season. He's been one of the best in his position all season in the league, in my honest opinion. It's just, the goals is what's always been concerning for me with Hamburg. Just the lack of threat they have in a centre forward department. Königsdorf has been average at best this season. Obviously, Glatzel's been injury prone. Obviously, he's barely played this season, and when he hasn't been amazing. Look, you support the rival club. Obviously, I know you want them to get kind of dragged into that relegation battle and at least swap positions with them.
If it certainly means that we finish the season as the better team in Hamburg, then I'm happy with that. But I guess from this point of view, and again, they're one of these teams that have had some really good results during the year so far, but they've also had some poor ones. And look, credit to them for fighting and taking the lead through Fabio Vieira. But, Leipzig showing that they're, again, one of these teams that just does what they need to do. And that's what they did. They can't beat both Hamburg sides. That's just not possible, except I think they beat us in the first game. But I'm talking about sort of more recently. But, yeah, it does drag Hamburg into that group of sides that that we could be talking about in that relegation scrap in the next month. Whatever that looks like. Definitely, I think that Merlin Poulsen's done a really good job with them, but I just think, like you said, they've only scored 26 goals for the season, and Mainz have got 27, we've got 23, and hopefully counting. Bremen's got 25, Wolfsburg's got 33. And they're second bottom. So it just goes to show that, defence means just as much as attack. And if you can't sort of get that balance right, where it means that, you could find yourself in the position that they are and possibly free falling. But look, they're not the only side to be sort of in that conversation. I know we've already talked about a few of them, and we've probably got another one to come.
We'll bring up another one right now. And Gladbach got themselves a much-needed win, of course, against Union Berlin. As late on as it possibly was. Look. One thing you can be certain of, Kevin Dick steps up to take a penalty most of the time he's going to score, and it was another fantastic penalty from him as well. But Union might be felt a little hard done by just trying to hold on to grind out the point there. But look, in the end, Gladbach getting themselves a big win, because obviously it keeps them a little further clear of that bottom 3. Because had they not won, look, then they're level on points of view, aren't they? At this point, if they don't get that late winner. So look, it could have been worse for Gladbach. Union themselves, I mean, look, they're so inconsistent right now. One week they'll win or play well, the next they'll lose, not look particularly well. Like the inconsistency's been very all up and down, all over the place with Union.
Yeah.
I'd say they're a little too far ahead to be concerning about relegation, but then again, I've said that again about many teams, and then a couple of weeks later, suddenly they are.
Yeah.
But look, for Gladbach's sake, because there wasn't much else really to talk about this one before we move on. Good for them to get back to winning ways, because they did need to, because it was starting to concern them, I'd imagine, a little bit with the lack of wins they've been picking up recently.
And other teams getting results around them, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, look, any thoughts from you on this game before we move on to the last three games of the round?
Kevin Dix, penalty specialist. I actually watched the end of this game as well, because I was obviously hoping that Union would be able to hang on for a draw, for obvious reasons. But look, credit to them, they won. They won. They left it late, but still getting a win at home is important for them. And I think, as much as they are still in that relegation possible conversation, I'd like to think that they'll have enough strength and firepower in the 10 games to go to not end up 16th and beyond. But we'll have to wait and see. And I think Dix actually had a goal disallowed before that penalty. Rocco Wrights, I think it was offside by a shoulder, if that, half his chest. So it proves that old adage that millimetres count in football.
Yeah, exactly. They really
whatever
do.
it might look like. So, but they end up getting the win eventually, and Union, like you said, I don't think they're going to be in that discussion of being dragged out into possible relegation talk. But again, we just don't know what's going to happen to them from here. With that loss.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on to another one of the other games in this round, then not an awful lot to it, of course. More drop points for Leverkusen, though, in the end, in a game which they luckily escaped from in the end, of course, after Mainz took the lead in the second half, having to get themselves an equaliser. It's another poor result for Leverkusen, in my honest opinion. I know Urs Fischer's been turning things around at Mainz, even though they're still completely, in that relegation picture. I still think their form has just carried them enough to think that they should be okay. But for Leverkusen's sake, which my focus is more on here, I'm just looking at their form recently. 2 wins, 2 draws and a defeat in their last 5 games. It's not great form for a team that should be aiming a lot higher than where they currently sit in the table. Of course, they're in 6th place. You'd expect Leverkusen off recent form in recent seasons to be up in that battle for 2nd place with Dortmund, and they're just so far off the pace. And this performance was again another one of those kind of performances where they just looked like they just didn't have it. I don't know if the Champions League is, hurting them, of course, but they should be used to it by now. They've had a few seasons in a row where they've been dealing with Champions League football and been doing all right in the Bundesliga, so I don't know what's going on with them. The consistency is just so... There's just no consistency, I should say, for Leverkusen right now, and it's really hurting their Champions League chances.
I mean, in terms of the game itself, from my point of view, Mainz taking the lead through Geraldo Becker, who's only signed in January.
Yeah, it's a great finish as well.
From an Union player, so...
Brilliant cross, brilliant finish.
Yeah, quality, but I mean, obviously, they're still in that sort of talk of not quite sort of relegation, but thereabouts. But I think a point against a side like Leverkusen is really positive for them in terms of they can also pick up points against the bigger teams.
Yeah.
But obviously Leverkusen, probably more disappointed that they could only get a draw, but also that they had to leave it pretty late. Kwanzaa in the 88th minute to get the point at home. So probably would have wanted more from that one.
Yeah, exactly. They definitely would have, and they need to find more consistency. Otherwise, that Champions League is going to fall further and further out of reach. And they're hitting a point now in the season where they need to, if they want Champions League football, because let's face it, they're probably not going to win the Champions League. So if they want Champions League football, they're going to have to win games consistently, because they're now 6 points off Stuttgart, and the gap looks like it's only just going to stay the same or get bigger. So who knows, right? And we'll finish off then this Bundesliga section with the last game of the round that we get to talk about. And look, this is a win and a performance I think Frankfurt fans have been waiting a long fucking time for, in all honesty, because this was the first time in a long time they genuinely looked comfortable and dominated a game of football. And surprising, in all honesty, that they did it against Freiburg, because Freiburg have been good largely this season, and for some reason in this game Frankfurt finally played a game of football where they didn't look like they were going to get scored on like 2 to 3 times at least in the game. It's a much needed win. I don't know how they're 7th. It's ridiculous to me how they're still 7th, despite the fact that they've conceded 49 goals now this season.
Yeah.
So with a much needed clean sheet, Zetterer came back into goal, looked far more assured than Carlos Santos has in recent weeks. The team just in general looked better, more confident, more just not as easy to get at, essentially. It's the second goal in particular from Bahoya, that was it. From Bahoya was just phenomenal, like just a fantastic goal, just kind of chipping it over the keeper on the angle. Just massive win for Frankfurt, and a confidence boosting win for that defence of theirs, which has been so ragged at times this season. And for Freiburg's sake, I mean, I didn't expect them to lose the game in that manner. I mean, look, I'm not going to put too much on Freiburg. They've largely been good this season, and a defeat's a defeat. It's going to happen. But for Frankfurt's point of view, yeah, I think a fantastic performance that has been a long time coming for them.
Yeah, I think that Frankfurt would be happy with that. Obviously, we talk about the Champions League. Champions League, the European implications. They're good, but they're not that good just yet. In terms of Europa League spots and things like that. They are one of those teams that are chasing Leverkusen at the moment, and Freiburg's another. So for them to beat Freiburg pretty comprehensively, I would have thought is important. I mean, the 49 goals is a bit of a concern for me, and I say that from their point of view because we actually play them on, I think it's Sunday morning, and I'd be sort of keen to see how we can encroach on their goal. And the fact that they've conceded 49 goals does give me a little bit of hope. But I guess from their point of view, they'd be looking to continue their good form to try and get that 6th spot, I think, because I don't really see them finishing any higher than 6th.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be too much of a bridge to climb. 10 points as it is now, and you wouldn't expect Leipzig to slide really with 10 games left to play. So, but from Freiburg's point of view, I think they'd just be wanting to avoid slipping any further, because Augsburg, if they keep getting wins, they could climb up there potentially in the coming weeks.
Yeah, exactly. So that will wrap up the Bundesliga portion, of course. For those of you who've made it this far, as always, don't forget to give us a like, follow, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll swiftly move on to the A League stuff then before wrapping up this week's episode. I mean, look, it's another solid week. I'm not going to say solid. We all know the problems the A-League's had this season. Let's just dive straight into it with the Friday game. Victory, as is the theme in this season, any team in and around the top 6 that isn't Newcastle or now seemingly Auckland, you can't win games at a consistent rate. And look, I'm happy with the fact that Victory and Adelaide have both dropped points in this game, of course. Given their positions on the table and our position on the table, but look, it was another one of those games where it was just like, hey, you can look really good in one week, but then the next you just look average and you just settle for a share of the points in the end, really, wasn't it?
It was, and look, I was pretty happy to see Adelaide get a point, for obvious reasons, after having to watch the One Matter masterclass from the week before, and sort of stewing on that for the week, and another result which we'll get to, which didn't make me any happier. But yeah, look, I think not a whole lot that I'll probably say about this one. Probably a point each was probably fair. Victory being at home, they would always want to win, but I think United have sort of turned a corner a little bit in terms of their form, and I think they probably would have been happy with the point.
Yeah, exactly. It's not it's not, nothing special of a game really to write home about. We'll jump straight into the action on Saturday with your team and their fantastic showing over in New Zealand after a fantastic showing in the derby last week. Of course, I'm being ridiculously sarcastic with this one. Look, I just want to point a few things out before you go into the game as a whole, which I don't actually think you watched all the way through, did you?
No, I was watching another game. So,
the Saints game. You'd rather watch a pre-season Saints game. I get it. But look, I don't know what's it's going from bad to worse, and it could yet get worse for you guys. As I was looking at the fixtures, you're not playing this week. You're not playing the week after. I don't actually think you're playing in the league until you play us on the 17th. If I'm correct.
I think I'm pretty sure that's correct.
So what could make it worse for you is by the time you play us, you could be at the foot of the table, because I've just realised you're only 2 points above the bottom of the table now. I don't know what's happened to Melbourne City. That you had an okay-ish start to the season, and it looked like you were probably just going to comfortably get in the top 6 again. But it's gone from that to looking like it's going to be a battle to even make it into 6th. That's 6 goals conceded as well in your last 2. You started the season pretty as one of the best defensive teams, and now you look like one of the teams everyone's capable of scoring goals against in a game. I don't know what's happened to your team. It's just remarkable how far you've just started to fall and slip. It's looking like Melbourne Heart now. If I'm going to be honest, not Melbourne City.
It probably is, and look. You'd think I'd be more upset about this, Chester, but I'm actually not, and I'll tell you why.
There's no relegation.
Well, that too. We've got our first leg AFC round of 16 game against Buriram tonight at home, which I'm not going to.
You'll watch it.
I'll watch it, and then we've got our second leg next week, which is why we're not playing. But the main reason is, and we'll get to this probably later in the week when we do our tea break episode, AFL season's back. So the Saints opening round game is on Sunday night, and I think it's fair to say I've got far more interest in that and them at the moment, far more mental and emotional investment in them and what they do than I have in a City side that just continues to plummet and has let me down more than enough times this season. I think I said on this podcast weeks ago we don't deserve to play finals, and I stand by that now. I wasn't aware that we're only 2 points off bottom, but we deserve to be there at the moment because we're just not showing enough. We haven't invested enough this season in proper players. We're playing the kids, and that's great, but it only takes you so far. Credit to Auckland in this one, 3-0. Bring on the footy season this weekend. Hope City do well tonight, because the only way to redeem themselves this season, and I stand by this, is to do well in Asia.
Yeah.
And they've got the chance to do that this week and next. That's the only thing that's going to paper over the cracks here in the league, and that's exactly what's happening. I don't know what's going to happen between now and end of April, where we've got some home games, in the run home this year. But I wouldn't be that disappointed if we didn't play finals, because we simply don't deserve to make it. That's pretty much all I'm going to say on this one, because I'm really frustrated and really pissed off. As you guys know, I didn't post anything after the derby. This is why. Because they just let me down, and it's not really worth getting angry and upset about. I'd rather channel my energy into other things and other teams. So there you go.
Well, speaking of other teams, we had an F3 derby, which, to be fair, I'll give credit to the Mariners. They've actually been on a decent little run of form recently. They're unbeaten in their last 5. This did end a run of 3 consecutive wins, but in doing so, it ended a run of wins for Newcastle, which I believe was at 7 or 6 games heading into that. And their first draw of the season as well, I'm realising as well. So it's not like they are definitely the league's entertainers, Newcastle. It's just given a glimmer of hope to Auckland, and you could maybe say us as well, but that's being a little more ridiculous given our inconsistency at times this season. But look, I mean, full credit to New Central Coast. They stopped a winning Newcastle run. They stopped their goal scoring, which has been relentless at times this season, and especially of late. I don't have much else to say about the game because not an awful lot happened, but for the sake of Mariners, they'll take that. They are still well in that finals contention. They've just steadily improved almost unnoticeably improved in the last few weeks. In fact, I didn't realise they'd gone 5 unbeaten, and won 3 in a row before this draw. So I mean, look, steady improvements for Mariners. I'm kind of glad we're done playing them this season. One of the few times you'll hear me praise the awful fixturing in the A League.
Yeah, I didn't keep an eye on this one, obviously, but look, credit to the Mariners. They fought really well. The key I probably took out of this, aside from Newcastle not scoring, was the shots on goal were everywhere, including the actual scoreboard. You know, the iconic big screen down at Central Coast Stadium. Blue tongue. It basically got smashed by an errant shot, and part of it was out of order. So even the poor pixels on the big screen were copping a battering. Possibly even from the Jets' own, the Mariners' own players. So that was probably my main takeaway. Not even the game itself, really.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention. You got your eyes on the ball. So
exactly.
But the sauce bottles weren't harmed, so that's good, right?
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one good thing there, isn't it? We'll move on to another pretty drab game, as there have been many in the league this week and in recent times in particular. Our 2 picks at the beginning of the season for finishing last and second last, who earlier this season were starting to be the surprise packages, who've now started to find themselves back in familiar territory, with another stalemate, 1-1 between Brisbane and Perth. Again, not an awful lot to say about this game apart from Chris Long's goal for Brisbane. It was a brilliant shot on the free kick, just really low, hard into the bottom corner underneath the wall. They're both just struggling for form. Perth have won once in their last 5. Brisbane are winless in their last 5. Of course, they were absolutely tepid against us last week in that defeat we handed them. Both of them are just starting to kind of level out again, I'd say, aren't they, in the league after their promising starts. Yeah,
just starting to peter out a bit. But this game was at I think Redcliffe KO Stadium, as it's known, and hopefully the football was better than the KO streaming most weeks, to be honest. But I think 1-1. I think a fair result for both clubs who have struggled at different times during the year. They've had their sugar hits in terms of good results, both under different circumstances. One under new management, and they sort of seem to be going all right in Perth, and they've sort of fallen behind again now. So I guess they're probably just looking to use the remaining games as a bit of a stepping stone to get games into the young kids, perhaps, and possibly challenge the teams that are going into that bottom half of the top 6.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of a team in the bottom half of the top 6, starting to maybe make more inroads than the teams above them, Wanderers pulling out something out of absolutely fucking nowhere. Turning over Macarthur 4-0. Now, look, I know Macarthur have been quite subject to these random results this season. Like, they're probably going to respond. Who are they playing next? Let's just have a quick look. Central Coast tomorrow. I mean, they're probably going to respond with a comfortable win over Mariners tomorrow, for all we know. But for Wanderers, I mean, that literally came out of nowhere, didn't it? I was incredibly stunned when I found out they'd beaten them 4-0. 4-0. And one thing I want to talk about in this game is, you've seen the highlights, obviously. How on earth has Krajev's goal been allowed to fucking stand? We talk about the bad refereeing in this league. This is the pinnacle of it for me. For those of you who haven't seen the goal, the reason the goal happens is Macarthur are playing the ball out around the middle of the park, gets turned over when a short pass to Bratton gets intercepted by a Wanderers player. Why? Because Bratton, making a run for the ball when the pass is slightly just past to the side of him, gets blocked by Daniel Elder, who's just standing in the middle as the referee, gets blocked, turns and then runs into him because he's literally on his shoulder, and then gets blocked from intercepting a ball, getting to a ball which was going straight to him almost, and then Wanderers managed to get the ball because it goes straight to them, and then Krajev scores. That makes it 2-0. At that point it felt like Macarthur were just done, and this third, and we'll talk about the third in a sec, but how on earth has Daniel Elder allowed that fucking goal to stand? I'm sorry. Like, he is literally blocked. I know he's not done it on purpose, but usually, whenever a referee accidentally interferes with play, it's a drop ball, blah, 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 move on, right? So how on earth has he accidentally blocked a Macarthur player from getting to a pass that was going to them and just allowed the goal to stand when the team from that resulting action gone up the end within a few passes and scored.
Mm-hmm. I've literally just seen it, and I totally agree. I've literally just the player involved was livid, and rightly so. Yeah,
Brad.
Just it was Brad, and I didn't see it. Yeah. And rightly so. Just we've seen bits of this in other sports where umpires and referees get in the way of the play, and just unforgivable, really. But I mean,
it's like in cricket. It's like in cricket, if a batsman hit a shot towards the rope for 4, and like a fielder's going to get to it, but then runs into the umpire at square leg or something, and they just go, "Oh no, it's all good. It's a 4. Just let it be." Like, it's ridiculous. Like, how on earth Daniel Welder's just not even remotely decided to call that back? How on earth VAR haven't looked at it and been like, "Oh, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't give this because he's been blocked by the referee, even if it is accidental." Like, God, the referees are melts, aren't they, in this league?
It is, and we've talked about them.
And now I'm defending Wanderers. Oh, it's not defending Wanderers, so it's defending Macarthur, but like, it's not my anti-Wanderers thing. It's just in the letter and the law, the rule of the game.
Yeah.
If a referee is accidentally interfering, it's a drop ball. End of story. Yeah.
Having said that, though, Macarthur did themselves no favours with the third goal. Deplorable, clearance from the goalkeeper. Just unforgivable, really. So they, as much as that sort of referee blunder hurt them, they also didn't do themselves any favours.
Kind of like the second goal you conceded with the long ball over the top that was headed back by Cyprian, and but we're not on your game. But look, Wanderers ended up winning it deservedly and comfortably 4-0. The fourth goal, I will give a bit of praise here to Wanderers. Cicluna, excellent. Like, that was fucking phenomenal. That little bit of dribbling that he did from his own half into the Macarthur half, and the ball as well to the back post where I believe it was Borello who slid in to score. I'll give them praise. Like, phenomenal goal from Wanderers, that fourth. But comfortable win for them, much needed win for them. Will it be a turnaround, and then will it get them back up the table? Who knows, with the league this season? It may not, right? And we'll finish off, of course, with this week's review with our game over in Wellington. Look, I'll be lying if I said it was an interesting watch, because it was far from the excitement of the Der Klassiker. It was quite turgid. A managerless Wellington under the interim guise of Chris Greenacre, of course, who looks about 65 years old now.
That's what coaching does to you, mate. It's it's what coaching does to you, unfortunately. And
looks like Ernie Merrick's brother now.
Hopefully a bit more animated than Ernie, but we love Ernie Merrick. So, but one 0 though.
I don't love him. I'm surprised you love him.
Well, he worked at the Saints for a little while.
You can overlook his success with years and years of management of victory.
With 5 minutes working at my footy club. But 1-0. I mean, it probably you probably saw this one better than I did.
It was just another standard Sydney result. Like, we can't score goals in the first half. It's just known this season. But we can damn well score them and play better in the second half, and that's just like what happened in the Brisbane game. Pretty poor first half. We turned it on a little bit early in the second half. Popovic scored. Wellington offered little to no threat for most of the game, and another comfortable 1-0 for us. But one thing I want to say is I don't understand this from A-League teams in particular. Every single time a team has to take a flight that's over an hour or two, they turn up to the game looking like they've been doing a hard week of training and played a game in between it all. I don't understand the lack of fitness at times in this league. Why is Sydney looking so lethargic when they've just jumped on a flight that's gone for 4 or 5 hours? It's not like we've been playing games midweek. We haven't, we've been training, but every football team trains. How is a 4 or 5 hour flight making you look like you've been playing games on Wednesday, been training hard either side of it? It's ridiculous. Look, I'll take the win because, at this point in time, I think we're still going to comfortably finish in the top 6 this season, despite the fact we've been, at times very underwhelming. We've won these last 2 games in the most underwhelming fashion possible, but we've won them, and we've won them both and got 2 clean sheets in the process as well. I will say, over this free kick, that one other thing from this game before we wrap up is you know, another fantastic bit of goalkeeping from Devon Ishmeers for us this season. That save from that free kick late on was just fantastic. Or header, sorry, I think it's a header. God, so let's see how dull the game was. I can't even remember. I think it's a header that was late on, and just a fantastic save from Devon Ishmeers to keep it at 1-0. But aside from that, Wellington really offered little to no threat and looked like the team who are bottom of the league, really. I just wanted us to put a little more oomph into it, and, you know...
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we're reserving energy for the Big Blue. I mean, if that's the case, then we better go fucking smash them up this weekend.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
I hope so as well, to help consolidate our place in the top 3. But yeah, look, that'll just about wrap up another review then for us this week. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Obviously, apologies that we can't comment on loads of stuff in the A-League, but it does get quite dull at times. It's not like the all-action Bundesliga, which, again, can have dull games as well, like many football leagues. Look, for the second week in a row, all 3 of my teams have won their games, so I'm not complaining. Apologies, Ben, that you support 2 teams who are basically in relegation scraps, and one team and another team who's basically showing no desire to get into the finals of their league.
No.
Maybe Saints can redeem it for you and win something this season.
Good segue, because I was actually just about to let our viewers know that, you know, the first lot of AFL games are kicking off this weekend, actually Thursday night. Saints play Sunday night. No, I have said on this channel that I'm going to provide some Saints content during the year.
Okay, I'll ask you right now, as a perfect ending segment to this, that has absolutely fuck all to do with the Bundesliga and the A League, of course. What's your tip? What's your tip for this weekend?
Saints win. Because I think I said to you a couple of weeks ago when we were going to possibly look at doing the T20 World Cup live stream final, it depends on I'm either going to be in a fantastic mood after a win or a fucking shit mood after a loss. So, look, too early to tell, but I think we're doing a tea break episode later in the week, so that might be the question to pose then. But look, we've won both of our pre-season games, and that's good. Winning form is good form. So I'd like to think that we can go into Sunday night with a win. It's going to be a massive crowd. I think 85,000+ at the MCG.
God, could you imagine an A-League crowd? Could you imagine? I mean, A-League crowds don't even get to half of that these days, let alone even close to it.
It's about 18 times the size of a city crowd. So, yeah.
That says it all, doesn't it?
Hopefully first up Saints victory. But in terms of the action we've discussed already, some really good results in the Bundesliga and something to play for in the bottom half of the table, which you can't say that in other divisions, in other competitions. So I think it's going to be a fantastic sort of last 10 weeks of the season. A League, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, look, I'm hopeful Sydney are going to still make it into the finals. I'd love it if you guys don't, because you've been making them every single season since you got renamed.
Well, like I said, I care more about what we're doing in Asia tonight.
It would be a nice change if you were to miss finals for the first time since you changed your name.
It wouldn't upset me too much, but I hope we do well in Asia, so we'll see.
Alright, hope you guys have enjoyed as always. We'll leave it there, of course. We'll be back on Friday, actually, is this week, because we're planning to do a double header for a tea break. Obviously, we won't release both episodes on Friday, but Ben is away, I believe, next week, aren't you? It's the second half of the week, so we're going to be filming back-to-back that week, so we got stuff to release, obviously, next week, of course, as well. So we'll be back on Friday for the tea break, of course. Hopefully, we can get this video out tonight. Fingers crossed. It really depends on internet speeds and all that stuff and technical issues, but at the least it will come out tomorrow morning, so still look forward to that, but hopefully tonight. So yeah, we'll head off now, and take care, guys. Peace out, see you guys, and we'll be back for the tea break later this week. Bye.
See you guys.